Hi, I'm Beck and welcome to one of my weekly what I'm currently reading videos. At the moment, I'm reading one book. I have no idea what to read as an audiobook, so I'm hoping that the update I do in the second half of the week will better inform you. The book that I'm reading right now is a dark academia book. It's a little bit weird, but I think I like the weird vibe. It's also mentioned one particular character, and our main character saw this person doing something and the expression on their face was very removed from how they act normally. And when she brought it up with this person, they were like, oh, that thing comes out of me sometimes. Just ignore it. I usually have a handle on it, which is like so skin crawly and uncanny. So it does a creepy undertone to this world in such a strategic way. It just drops it in every now and then. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm still hooked. It's still weird and I'm still liking it. I've read about 130 pages and it's roughly 400-ish. So I'm hoping to make headway on this and hopefully finish it ASAP this week, because I would love to get into another book that I've got on my to be read pile. And that is none other than Robin Hobb. So this is the third book in the Farseer trilogy. It's a book series that I'm rereading. I haven't touched it for more than a decade and I'm loving my foray into this world again. However, this is 800 pages, which is an intimidating length to say the least. So I'm hopeful that during March I can read halfway through this. I don't anticipate I'm going to finish it. I just filmed my March to be read video and I have a few physical reads on that to be read pile. So I don't know how I'm going to actually go with finishing this. I really want to, but it also depends on how often I can make myself sit down and focus on this book. I tend to get distracted doing housework and doing social events and having birthdays and stuff. So there's always something going on and I always need to make time to read. Otherwise I just forget to do it. So this is a priority for March and I'm hoping to make a little bit of headway on it before February ends. And if I can finish this one, that is what I'll do. It has also been a rapid fire short update because my camera battery is flashing at me and so it's about to die any second. So I will leave you with future Beck, who will tell you what I ended up getting up to during the week in terms of my reading. Well, it's later in the week and I actually delivered on the goals that I set out at the beginning of this video that I was rushing through because my camera was dying. It's now fully charged. And I ended up finishing An Academy for Liars and I ended up giving this a 2.5 stars. That's because at times this just felt really boring. Even though I was talking in this video and my previous video and saying there are moments in here that were really eerie and creepy and there was potential for the magic system, I do still believe all of those things, and that's what kind of kept me going, because every now and then you get a peak and I was like, oh, I'm interested again. But then it would shift back into the norm for this book, which I just found very descriptive and boring. And it's almost like when something happened, Lennon, our main character, instead of getting more involved and emotionally invested, emotionally she would almost pull back. And because that was the way this was written, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it just made me not interested in the book. So I wish that I liked it more, which is a bit of a shame, but it seemed like there was a lot of blood and viscera just thrown throughout the book that seemed a bit unnecessary. It was only adding to the atmosphere of the book, but it just didn't feel like it was earned almost, especially towards the end. And I don't know how I mean earned. I guess I was just nitpicking at this book because I wanted to enjoy it and I kept finding reasons not to enjoy it because it wasn't hooking me. So I guess that's one of the things that I was noticing, because you know when you notice something about someone and then you can't turn your brain off, like you can't unnotice that anymore, and then every little thing they do annoys you even more. That's how I felt with this book. It's like a switch in my brain flipped and I was like, I'm not as invested as before. Like the beginning was intriguing and I did feel that emotional detachment, but I hoped it would grow throughout the story and it didn't. So that's why I landed on a 2.5 stars. Then I finally started, you guessed it, Robin Hobb, and I read 52 pages of this. It's at least 838 pages. So reading 52 pages is only the equivalent of 6%. Which is so silly, but I'm happy that I've made some headway on this. I want to get halfway through, so I want to read about 400 pages, so that's a little bit towards that goal at least. And then in March, because I'm filming this just at the end of February, in March I've got separate goals as well that also include this, but predominantly other things. So I'm about to start a reading vlog and the focus won't be this. It'll be this in the background, but the focus will be on other books. So I'm happy that I started it before I had to start that reading vlog. So the way that I'd imagined and envisioned my timeline for reading so far is kind of meeting what I expected. So that is always a good thing. Obviously, I also love this book. Robin Hobb's writing style, unlike my other book in this video, her writing is just immediately immersive to me. And even though she takes a while to get to her point, I find that I don't care because I'm immersed in her story, in her characters' minds, and in the world anyway. And I'm just loving this so much. I already feel the heartbreak and the anguish and the connection. It's just beautiful. So I am loving this already. It's only early days and I'm already so broken by it. Then because I had to balance things out, I was like, oh, that is a dark academia, morally grey characters. This is an emotionally devastating book and it's long. I was like, okay, I need a shorter book that's a bit more happy, a bit more peppy. So I ended up starting an audiobook, and that is The Dark Prophecy. And I talked about wanting to start more Rick Riordan books in my intimidating TBR tag, which is not live yet, but it will be in the coming weeks after my February wrap up. So this one is the sequel to The Trials of Apollo, and it's within the 5-book series that follow Apollo. Apollo has been cast down out of Olympus by Zeus because he offended Zeus, and now he has to repent. And to repent, Zeus has sent him to Camp Half-Blood as a 16-year-old boy named Lester, and Lester has to go on a quest with our demigod friends in order to restore the oracles because something is going wrong. They're not getting prophecies anymore, and Apollo is the god of prophecy, so they're like, who better to head this quest than a guy who used to be Apollo? So that is what they're doing in here. I remember liking the first book but enjoying the second more, and then my enjoyment for the series growing even further as I continued through it. So I looked on Goodreads, I gave this a 4 stars, I gave the first book a 4 stars. I'm ready to be enamored by the journey in this story because I know that it goes by quickly, and I've read about 17% of it, which is a couple of hours of the audiobook, so I've already made myself a little bit of a head start ahead of starting March. So I'm happy I've given myself a little bit of a boost. But then, what is she reading next, you might ask? So while that audiobook is kind of percolating in the background, and while I pause Robin Hobb, I now have physical books that I should probably read for that reading vlog. So in my March TBR, my random number generator did me dirty. It didn't treat me very well. There was a book that I really wanted to read and it decidedly ignored that book and it chose this one instead, and that is Blood of Olympus. And this has been touted as TikTok brain rot. Other people seem to have loved it. I've read the synopsis and I've found that the writing style is a little bit cringy, and I'm hoping that the writing within the story is not as cringy as the synopsis. As far as I can tell, it's about Alexis and she goes to a Spartan war academy, and there are 2, they're called unyielding gladiators who are part of this Spartan war academy, and they are reminiscent of the gods, I think, but they're not actually gods. I'm not sure. It says Achilles and Patro. They're also 2 professors, and it says they are heirs to the underworld and they haunt her steps and her thoughts. And it's also been described as a white shoes romance, which is also a reverse harem romance. So it's one woman, multiple men. I don't know if it's going to be poly or if it's just like a weird, almost triangle situation. I don't even know if I'm going to get far enough into this in order to discover the romance, because it might only take a few pages for me to go, I hate this though, or I'll stick through it and then just have a fun time despite it being cringe. I'm really genuinely not sure which way it's going to go. That's why it's going to be the feature of my reading vlog, so stay tuned. And then when that book inevitably crashes and burns like I'm expecting it to, I have a book on my physical to be read pile that I thought I would pivot to next, and that is Nevermore, which is the first book in the Trials of the Morrigan Crow series. And this is a middle grade series, and it's got the 4th book, Silverborn, coming out at the end of April. And I thought if I start my reread now, I can probably reread this and the other 2 books before that book comes out. So I'm trying to get ahead of the curve here a little bit. And this one is about Morrigan, who I believe has a curse put on her, or people perceive she has a curse on her when she's a child, and that curse therefore means that she's got a shortened lifespan. I think they're expecting her to die when she's like 10 or something, 10 or 11. And as a result, it's kind of like a Harry Potter and the Dursleys situation where they abuse him and treat him terribly. So Morrigan's family treat him terribly. And one day this wizard comes out and he saves her, but I don't know if he's actually in the synopsis on here. I don't think it is. No, he comes out, he's basically her mentor. He takes her away, spirits her away to the world of Nevermore, away from her negative family, and he raises her and takes her to this magical school where she makes friends. And so it's about her almost getting a second chance at relationships and about creating that found family around her. She also sticks her nose in where it doesn't need to go, and she goes on quests and takes her friends with her. So I had a great time reading this. It was so magical and whimsical, and I'm really excited to read it again. Like, it's middle grade. It's not going to take me too long. Compared to Robin Hobb, it shouldn't take me too long. So I'm looking forward to reading this one, getting through it, and then hopefully liking it enough to continue the others, because I haven't read those for literally years, which is why I thought I'd reread them before the new release, because I remember absolutely nothing. Like, I don't even remember the wizard guy's name, and he's a key character. So I think it's time for a reread to refresh everything in my brain. But this is everything that I have talked about. What a packed currently weekly reading video. This is insane. I don't usually talk about this many books at once, but at least I'm making some headway. I've got some goals I've put against my to be read pile for the month of March. Goals of when and what week I want to read different books in. And I think that's kind of helping me segment in my mind when to start things and when not to, because historically I've started reading vlogs like in January and then they've gone for the whole month instead of just a set amount of days. And I'm like, I need to be a bit more structured about both my reading and my video schedules. So if I can do that, I can bring a bit more structure into my life. And that means then I can hopefully read more pages, because that is the ultimate goal. But thank you so much for watching this video. Leave me some blue heart emojis if you got this far in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.